I've been on the carnivore diet for 18 months now, and I've tried 4 different variations of it. Today, I'm going to share my experience with each variation and break down exactly how each variation impacted me. I'm also going to talk about all the mistakes I made that cost me months of progress so you can avoid them. Let me take you back to the start. 18 months ago, just before I started carnivore, I was eating a primarily whole foods balanced diet. However, I just felt terrible. I was eating like 10 plus servings of vegetables a day, but I was still hungry. This is despite the fact too that I was bulking, which meant I was intentionally eating a lot of food to try and gain muscle mass. So I was eating lots of lean meats, lots of vegetables, lots of starches, but I was still starving all day. I also had very poor energy. In the mornings, I'd seriously struggle to wake up, but the biggest problem of all that I had was that I was terribly addicted to processed food. But that was until one day where I was sitting there, minding my own business in my university apartment. And somehow, even though I was studying, I'm not sure how it happened, I ended up on the YouTube homepage, and I saw a video called Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Plants Are Trying to Kill You. Now, as I sat there watching the video, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're telling me vegetables are bad for me? I knew red meat wasn't actually bad for me. That's just pure common sense. How could the one food we've always been eating cause these modern diseases? But vegetables are bad? Surely not. After watching this video and binge watching probably another 100 carnivore videos in the upcoming days, I decided I had to give this thing a try. So that's exactly what I did. Headed to the supermarket, picked up steak and eggs. I'm sure I got some other meats too, but I mean, you can't beat steak and eggs. Now within days, I noticed so many changes. I could think a lot clearer. I had constant energy. It was insane the difference between my clarity of thought. I never knew I had brain fog, but I very clearly did. I remember on like the third day, I was having a shower. You know how there's like the shampoo and soap and stuff on like the shelf in the shower? I accidentally knocked it, and 3 bottles fell off at once. Caught all 3 the same time. I only got 2 hands. I don't know how I did it. In every metric of human life, I felt significantly better. But there was a problem. The processed food addiction caught up to me. I'd go with friends and I'd be like, you know what? I'll have this one thing. But as we all know, the scientists at those food companies, they don't make it very easy to only have one thing. So I'd eat the one thing, and then next thing you know, I'd go home and I'd be like, you know what? I've already ruined my diet. Let me have something else. But that wasn't it. Because the mind always has a technical advantage over you and knows all your weaknesses, I'd get psyoped by my own brain into eating more of this garbage. I'd say to myself, you know what? This is going to be the last time in your life you ever eat this stuff. Just go out, have one more thing, enjoy it, and from tomorrow onwards, we're never eating that stuff again. So I'd have this stuff, and then I'd feel terrible after eating it. I'd crave things for days, and it just completely ruined my results. Like every good addict does, I convinced myself it wasn't that bad. You know, I'm bulking, I'm trying to gain weight. Having these things just one time won't hurt me. You know, you're only 20 years old. It's not the end of the world if you have a bit of processed food. You know, everyone does it. So essentially, for my first few months of carnivore, I was basically dirty carnivore. I'd be good for a couple of weeks, and then I'd go eat a lot of garbage. The fact about life is it's very hard to change something unless you have a very strong reason to do so. That's why most people don't give up processed food, so they get diagnosed with some serious issue. It's so easy to read out all these statistics about how 41% of people get cancer in their lifetime, but most people just think, you know what, it's not going to happen to me. But that all changed. One day, I looked in the mirror and I looked at myself and I was like, jeepers mate, what's happened? You've fallen off a bit here. I've been bulking for too long and I'd gained so much weight I barely recognized myself. So I decided enough was enough. And my mate, who was also bulking with me, I said, come on G, like, we've got to do something about this. Neither of us were looking too flash. So from that day onwards, I was a new man. I said to myself, no more eating this garbage. You're going to stay strict. We're going to do at least 30 to 90 days, bare minimum. So after being what they call dirty carnivore for a while, I went all in and I just essentially ate a typical carnivore diet. All meats included, dairy if I wanted it, but mainly I just eat steak and eggs because that is my favorite meal, the greatest meal of all time. Now during my first 2 months, I dropped 30 pounds. I went from being this overweight, inflamed looking slob, to put it pretty bluntly, to rather jacked if I don't mind saying so myself. But the craziest part about this whole thing was that I wasn't hungry once. Every single time in my life that I'd ever been on a diet, ever tried to get lean, it'd be torture. You know, you go a couple of weeks, drop a few pounds, you're feeling good, looking good, but then all of a sudden, you're starving. All you can do is think about food. No matter how much you eat, you don't seem to be full. And so you eat 2 weeks worth of food at once. You gain all the weight back minus like a pound. You end up losing like 1 pound every 3 weeks, and your cut takes half a year, and you're feeling terrible. You know what I'm talking about. It's vicious. It's terrible. But this time, not a single bit of hunger. In fact, one time during this, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to see how long it takes for me to get hungry. So One day, oh, okay, fine. 2 days, oh, still not hungry. And then I got halfway through the third day and I was like, yuck, I'm kind of bored. I want to lift some weights and do some stuff. So I'm just going to eat so I can train. So yeah, even after 2.5 days of not eating, I still wasn't hungry. We're not eating these hyper processed foods with lots of carbohydrates that are causing blood sugar fluctuations all day. You just don't get hungry. In just a couple of months, I had essentially become unrecognizable and my entire perception on food changed. I used to look at it as this tasty treat that I knew wasn't good for me, but if I had small amounts here and there, maybe it's okay. But after doing this 2 months, where I had ridiculous energy, I lost all this weight, I looked incredible, felt incredible, I then started to view that stuff as just poison. I don't look at it as food. I just saw it as a bunch of chemicals heaped together designed to taste good. To this day, I still have zero desire to eat processed foods. Even the tastiest looking things, when they're in front of me, don't care. I used to be clinically addicted to these things. Now, absolutely zero desire. It's crazy what happens when you remove these things and completely break the addiction. Because with addictions, your brain can only remember how much pleasure it got from something for a couple weeks. So if you abstain from it for a couple weeks, you break the trap. Now, the sneaky buggers at the processed food companies, they know this, which is why you always hear, everything in moderation's fine. They know nobody can moderate. 90+% of people are complete and utter addicts. It's like saying to some meth junkie, you know what, G? Why don't you just have one hit of the pipe tonight? Then go a few days without it, just a little bit in moderation. It's not possible to moderate addictions. You just have to tough the cravings out for a while, and it's gone. Now, despite the fact that in every single tangible metric of my life, I was better. I'd even wake up in the mornings at like 4 a.m. with just unlimited energy. I used to be one of those people who would put like, I don't know, I'd snooze my alarm constantly. I'd set like 5 different alarms, try to get up at the last minute possible. Now I was waking up at like 4 a.m. just with like a ridiculous amount of energy, needing to go do something. It was a complete game changer in every single way. But like I said, I still had one problem, and that was I still had a bit of acne. Now the reason for this was because I was still consuming dairy, in particular pasteurized dairy, which they heat to these temperatures to kill all the bacteria, but it denatures the proteins and makes them inflammatory. So I decided there was only one logical solution. Lion diet, which is exactly what I did, and within like a couple of weeks, every single pimple I had vanished. Now to tell you the truth, I can't think of any other benefits I experienced from switching lion to lion, but I already had so many incredible benefits with carnivore that there wasn't really any more potential to gain the other benefits. However, after doing lion diet for a while, there was still one thing that wasn't quite right, and that was that my meals just felt a little bit incomplete. I don't know if it was because I was conditioned my entire life to have multiple things per meal, because, we need a balanced diet with lots of variety apparently. But whatever the reason was, I'd have the steak and I'd be full. The steak still tasted amazing. I never got sick of it, but I just felt like I wanted something a little bit more. Now, there was only one solution to this problem. Can you ever guess what it is? Bring the eggs back. Now, in doing so, did I feel any better or worse? No, but I did love my food a lot more. I'm not quite sure how to put words to it and explain this in an articulate manner, but eating steak and eggs, it just feels perfect. After you eat a good plate of steak and eggs, you feel like you could conquer the world. If it was back in the day and I had a good meal of steak and eggs, I'm sure I would set sail and stumble upon some undiscovered nation. Unfortunately now, due to international law or whatnot, all I can do is go to my local gym and do a few sets of bench press. But after eating steak and eggs, you just feel incredible. Now I have a couple takeaways. The first being that a strong why equals a strong will. It is so hard to make the change and go into an all-meat diet. This processed food, and even things like fruit, it tastes incredible. And in order to give that up, you need a great reason to do so. Now, for me, I struggled to find this at the start. Like I talked about, I told myself, oh, I'm young, I'll be fine. My original why was, okay, I want to lose weight. Let me get rid of this stuff for a period of time. However, after that, my why then became, well, hang on a sec. I feel so much better. When I eat the stuff, I feel terrible. My energy's worse. I'm hungry all day. I can't think clearly. So essentially, you end up developing these whys. For some people, it's very simple. It's like, well, I have chronic arthritis. I'm clinically depressed. I guess I have to give this thing a go. If you have a very clear why, write that down. So every single time you get the craving at the start, you know your reason. And if you don't have any issues, what I would say to you is try it for 30 days and you discover your why. Like I said, you'll feel better, look better. Every single tangible human metric you will improve in. The processed food you once loved, you start to look at it so differently. It becomes chemical slop that is designed to taste good, rather than food, which is honestly, it's a pretty fair description. And then the other one is to be careful with dairy. One, if you're drinking milk, it can re-trigger those cravings because it's sweet, and two, it can mess with your hunger signaling and can be inflammatory to some people. Now, carnivore as a whole has given me so much. It's changed my life in ways that I didn't even think were possible. I always thought, I'm not a morning person. I stay up late and, I sleep in. I struggle to get out of bed in the mornings. That's who I am. Whereas now, even to this day, I wake up in the mornings with ridiculous energy. I can't go back to sleep even if I wanted to. If you are someone who's doing the whole dirty carnivore thing, where you're good for most of the week and then you slip off a bit in the weekend, I don't think you understand just how much you're missing out on. It really wasn't until I took the leap, went all in, that my life really changed. Give it 30 days and you'll never want to go back, believe me. Now, a lot of people always say to me, what do you think about fruit? Is adding fruit a good idea? And in this video here, I break all that down. Subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you next time.